In this video we'll talk about data sets and variable types. So you define all the variables for a project through variable setup under tools. And I've got to open a project that has a whole bunch of different types of controls that we can talk about. So there's different data set categories that are used for the different controls. In this project the first entry is a group of analogs. You can name them anything you want, that's totally arbitrary, and the data type is selected here. So you're generally always going to have analogs and probably all the other ones as well. So in this data set I have quite a few variables defined in this project. And where would I use analogs? For basically anything that's an analog indicator. So it could be a dial gauge, it could be a transmitter, analog indicators, those are all analogs. In this project the next category is a group called alarms of the alarm data type, and I've defined all the alarms in this PLC. And the purpose of an alarm data type is to populate alarm banners and summaries and logs. So the alarms come in as yellow text when they're selected for that particular control. So if you had multiple units, you'd create multiple categories of alarms and shutdowns and then select which ones are used in any given alarm dialog. Next category are shutdowns. So all the shutdowns for this project, and we can see we had one active here that populated an alarm banner in red. So that's really the only difference between the alarm and the shutdown is the color that's used for the dialogues. Next category is a status. So this is just basically a Boolean, a discrete, a 1 or a 0. And these are used for discrete indicators like these two here. Also used for pressure switches. So there's a pressure switch here. Next category is a tunable. So a tunable is like an analog in that it's a value that's read in an analog format with its scaling, data low, data high, EU low, EU high, just like the analogs. But in addition to reading, you can also write to these tunables. So here is a tunable. You can make them look any way you want. In this case I've given a different value background to distinguish it from an analog control. So these just are write on command. Another category that's writable is a control bit. So that's just a discrete that is written with a 1 or a 0 depending on how you set up the control. So controls that write bits are buttons. So we've got some buttons here. And that's basically all that is used to write to a discrete are buttons. So those are the different data types you're going to use in a project.